Hello friends and welcome to my new video. Today I'll be talking about a filmmaker who brings out extreme reactions in people. I mean, I can't think of too many filmmakers whose one single film is rated by some as his best work and the same film is rated by others as his worst film ever. So that's the kind of filmmaker he is, one who brings out extreme reactions from his audience. He's often accused of repackaging the same story in all his films and, criticized for being unidimensional. But the filmmaker is a huge personal favorite of mine, and he is none other than Imtiaz Ali. He is perhaps one of my most favorite filmmakers of recent times. Now, Imtiaz Ali's criticism of being the same in each and every film of his, I guess it's perhaps because Imtiaz Ali talks of a subject which is common all over the world, which is human beings. He talks about human beings and their feelings, and most of his films depict the journey in the lives of the protagonists of the film, and it's depicted in a wonderful, masterful way, very lyrical and yet so simple. Imtiaz Ali, as I said, his movies are about human beings and their emotions and their feelings and what they go through in life. And I guess that is pretty universal in itself, no matter which part of the world you reside in or no matter what your caste, creed, color is, human emotions are basically the same. And that's what Imtiaz Ali so brilliantly and so beautifully taps into, which is why, as I said, he's a huge, huge personal favorite filmmaker of mine. So in today's episode, I want to talk about 5 of my favorite Imtiaz Ali films. As always, in no particular order, they just randomly picked. And these films are very close to my heart. The first film I want to talk about is Rockstar. Rockstar, directed by Imtiaz Ali, stars Ranbir Kapoor and Nargis Fakhri in the lead roles. And I remember when Rockstar first came out, it was received, in a slightly mixed manner. People didn't know what to make out of it because till then his filmography had, been restricted to pure romantic movies, and Rockstar was anything but that. It's a very well-made film which depicts the journey and the transformation of Janardhan from a shy, naive, unsure guy, who's passionate about music. And it's this journey of him finding himself, and from Janardhan to JJ, the rock star that he becomes. The film is about that, really. And it delves really deep into his persona, into his psyche, and, the troubled soul that he is, and his struggles and his ways of coping with all the demons inside him, and how he transformed that into music is what Rockstar is about. It stands on an absolutely fabulous performance by Ranbir Kapoor. I personally feel it's one of his best performances ever. And unfortunately, the film, didn't really succeed at that point in time. Today, Rockstar has sort of developed a cult following, and there are a lot of people who think it's one of Imtiaz Ali's better works. But Rockstar by Imtiaz Ali is my number 5. The next film I want to talk about is another very, very favorite film. All of these are really favorite films. So I'm not saying anything new when I'm saying it's a favorite film. But the film in concern is Love Aajkal. And Love Aajkal is, the one which stars Saif Ali Khan, Deepika Padukone, and Rishi Kapoor. It's a wonderful movie. And it's, again, yet a love story, but spanning 2 generations in 2 separate time periods. And what Imtiaz Ali beautifully brings out in the movie is the difference in the times and the situations and the circumstances, and yet the similarity of love as an emotion and love as a feeling. you know, times may have passed, generations may have changed, but love remains the same. And that is beautifully depicted by Imtiaz Ali through the story of Jai and Meera and Veer Singh and Harleen. It's absolutely a wonderful film. Superb performances by Saif and Deepika, as well as Rishi Kapoor. Brilliant movie and one of my favorites. At number 3, I would perhaps put in Highway, which is another very, very good movie made by Imtiaz Ali. Highway is, again, at a very superficial level, it's a classic Stockholm Syndrome story where the abducted Veera, has a soft corner and falls in love with Mahabir, her abductor. But it's such a richly layered film, and there is so much depth in the film. There is so much into the characters of the protagonists of Veera and Mahabir. And as I said, it's perhaps difficult to explain in an episode what Highway is really about, but it's one of the most perceptive and one of the most in-depth films made about human beings. And both Alia Bhatt and Randeep Hooda put in absolutely magnificent performances to make Highway the great film that it is. That's at number 3 in my list of favorite Imtiaz Ali movies. Number 2 actually is a tie. It's sort of cheating, but I can't separate these two films. They are, joined to me as the number 2 film by Imtiaz Ali. And the films are actually quite different from one another. The first one in the list is Jab We Met. Perhaps the film Imtiaz Ali is known most for, his biggest commercial success. And it was sort of the arrival of Imtiaz Ali happened with Jab We Met. Starring Kareena Kapoor and Shahid Kapoor. Beautiful movie. It's a classic romantic road movie with awesome performances by both the lead stars. And you've really got to be a hardcore cynic not to like Jab We Met. It's such a warm, such a beautiful movie of opposites attracted to one another. And Kareena Kapoor is fabulous, as is Shahid Kapoor. He is, he plays the perfect foil to Kareena's extravagant and, bubbly and extroverted character that she plays. And it's a wonderful movie, and it's, as I said, number 2 on my list. The other film, which is also number 2 in my list, is the film which I referred to at the beginning of this episode, that is, a film which evoked extreme reactions from people when it was released, and it's Tamasha, starring Ranbir Kapoor and Deepika Padukone. Now, Tamasha to me is an absolutely fabulous film, and if I looked at it just cinematically and as cinema, in as detached and objective a way I could, it would perhaps be number 1. But I'll come to my number 1 later, and I'll give you my reasons why it is number 1. But Tamasha as a film is, I think, such a beautiful movie. It's such a soul-stirring movie, about Ved and Tara. And Ved is this absolutely bohemic and carefree and, completely the wild child, character that he is, and how he transformed into a meek, docile, following the rule book sort of a person. And it is the spirit and the love and the brilliance of Tara who reignites, the old faith, who somehow had got lost in the corporate world and in the corporate race. And Tara reignites that spark which had died down inside of him to absolutely fantastic results. Dave decides to, rediscover himself and be who he really is and who he really can be. Actually, he can just be that wild child and nothing else, and no one else. And it's Tara's love and her perception which sort of ignites that flame, reignites that flame in Ved, and makes him what he is. Tamasha is at times uncomfortable to watch, at times a little self-indulgent perhaps, because I think, whether he says it or not, I think it's Imtiaz Ali's closest film. It's a film which perhaps is closest to his heart. It's a film where he really exposes who he truly is. So, because of that, at times Tamasha does tend to get a little too personal, a little too indulgent, maybe, for some people. But it doesn't hamper its brilliance in any way. It's a brilliant movie. Tamasha is a brilliant movie, and as I said earlier, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's the film of Imtiaz Ali which perhaps evokes the most diverse of reactions. People hate it or people love it. You cannot be indifferent to a movie like Tamasha. It's my number 2 Imtiaz Ali movie. Coming to my all-time favorite Imtiaz Ali movie, there is no doubt in my mind that it's his debut film, SochaNaTha. It's perhaps one of the most romantic movies I've ever seen. It's simple, it's sweet, and it's simply beautiful. It's a debut of Abhay Deol and possibly Aisha Takia, although I think she did have a release earlier than SochaNaTha, but it's really her first big movie. And it's such a sweet movie. It's such a romantic movie. It's a story of Aditi and Viren and Karen, and played beautifully by Apurva Mehta. It's such a beautiful movie depicting the lives of these 3 young people who are in this confused maze of love, friendship, togetherness, belonging, and it's so beautifully and sweetly depicted by Imtiaz Ali. I mean, we are so used to a certain kind of romantic movies in Hindi cinema, in Indian cinema really, but Imtiaz Ali showed us how love can be so simple and sweet. And there are moments in the movie, that's the thing about Imtiaz Ali cinema which really gets to me, the moments. Each of the movies I've mentioned, Love Ajkal, Tamasha, Highway, Rockstar, they are filled with moments. They're filled with some absolutely sweet, brilliant moments. Jab We Met too, has plenty of them. But, nothing comes close to me personally when it comes to SochaNaTha. It's so beautiful. It's a movie I never get tired of watching. As I said, if I look at it cinematically, objectively, maybe Tamasha is a better film. But, speaking of something which is really close to my heart, it has to be SochaNaTha. That's my all-time favorite movie of Imtiaz Ali. And I wish and I hope and I pray that, in one of his forthcoming movies, he reverts back to that simple, sweet storytelling of young love and romance. He's an absolute master at it. So, well, these were my favorite Imtiaz Ali movies. He's made a few duds like Jab Harry Met Sejal and the second Love Ajkal. But I think he's made some wonderful films, which make us forget those underwhelming films in any case. Do let me know what your favorite Imtiaz Ali movies are. And until the next time, bye for now.